Hello everybody, in today's video I'm going to be covering my 12 favorite pieces of artwork from my visit to the Met back in 2025. I know, I've been sitting on these pictures a while, but I'm getting to the video now, so let's take a look. Alright, so this is the first one. You can see it's four sets of samurai armor, or I guess one set of 4 pieces of armor. And I really like this one. This was one of the first exhibits I saw when I came into the Met. I kind of imagine if you and all your samurai buddies are getting together, this is what it would look like. And I mean, these are just really amazing to look at. My personal favorite is here on the left. I think this is a really great design. This guy kind of looks like a garden gnome with this red pointy helmet. The guy here, second from the right, has these horns coming out, and this, I mean, terrifying, because I think that's human hair. I can't quite remember what the plaque said, but to me, that looks like human hair. So, a little bit scary, because during that time, they probably scalped someone to get it. Terrifying. And the last one on the right here, I mean, this is just classic samurai armor. Really, just looks amazing. Alright. Next up, we have a couple of revolvers here, a couple of 6-shooters. And you might look at them and think, man, there's really nothing cool about them. But I beg to differ, because these 3 guns were made in the 1800s, early 1800s, at the Colt Gun Factory here in Hartford. Yeah, so if you've ever driven 91 through Hartford, you know, you're going right by the river. Well, on the other side, right, the side that's not the Connecticut River, right, there's that big blue dome with stars on it. Well, that building, if I remember correctly, I think that is the old Colt Gun Factory. They don't make guns there anymore, but that's where these guns were originally made, in Hartford, Connecticut. So it's pretty cool to read the plaque and see, like, wait a minute, I know that building. You know, I've passed it 1,000 times. See, here's some of the original Colt guns that were made at that factory back in the 1800s. Pretty amazing. Oh, next up, we have this piece of armor from, I think it's medieval France, one of the European countries. And you look at this, and it's a nice piece of armor. You go, oh man, intricate design, looks very nice. But the reason I immediately zoomed in was because of the scale. Look at this, compared to the armor on the right and left-hand side. Look at the size of the head. Look at the proportions on the torso, on the arms. Yeah, this suit of armor was made for a 10-year-old boy who became king after his father unexpectedly died from illness. So he became king, and he needed a set of armor because, you know, kings have to wage wars. So they went and dressed up this little 10-year-old boy in the piece of armor you see here so that he could go out and, you know, fight battles and win wars in his cute little armor set. So yeah, I mean, can you imagine being the armor smith, being told, you know, oh, we need a set of armor for the king. And you go, oh, perfect, I've done this all my life. And they say, yeah, proportionate for a 10-year-old boy. Kind of terrifying. And especially with some of the medieval weapons of that day were like, you know, the halberds that are like 12 feet tall and weigh 60 pounds at the end or something ridiculous. Can you imagine this little boy going in with his tiny little suit of armor? Now, this was probably only used ceremonially, but it's still crazy to think about. Okay. Next up, oh, this is a fun one. This is a hunting knife with a wheel-lock pistol slapped on the top. So apparently, you can see here that wheel-lock pistols were sometimes combined with swords, knives, axes, maces, spears, and even crossbows, which could all be used in the event that the pistol misfired. Because you can look at the dates here, 1500s, right? Usually clumsy and impractical. They were nevertheless highly prized curiosities. This is before our dear friends at the Colt Gun Factory started pumping out guns. So these weapons were highly unreliable, so they would just slap them onto the back of another weapon that they already knew would work. So they took a tried and tested hunting knife, threw a pistol on the back of it. And there were a number of other items like this in the collection. It was just a normal weapon with a pistol on it. And yeah, this is my favorite of those. And you can see, I mean, beautiful, beautiful weapon here. The detail in the engravings is just incredible. Look at all these tiny little letterings that were carved in, both on the blade itself and on the wheel-lock pistol and on the handle. Really great job, great craftsmanship. Really impressive weapon. Although probably just used for decoration. So this, oh man. I really hope everyone recognizes this painting. This is George Washington crossing the Hudson River. Famous painting. And now that I got to see it in person, I truly understand why. This painting is about like 3 stories tall. That's not a joke. Okay, my eye level was like down here, near the bottom. Alright, so maybe it was like 2 stories tall. But this room was pretty much 3 stories. Massive painting. And, I mean, the painter who did it, he wasn't using these giant brush strokes. No, he was still doing fine detail. And so you could cut out a tiny piece of the image, and it could be a whole painting all on its own. It was actually incredible how much detail was packed in here. It filled you with a sense of patriotism. And, so we see George Washington here crossing the Hudson River, the chunks of ice, the fog, the storm. But what I never noticed before, but it was incredibly easy to notice while you're there, because this is, is massive, like, if I had to guess, maybe like 6 foot by 6 foot square area just in here. So, it was absolutely huge when you're in person. But back here, the second boat was here hauling horses. They put some horses on a boat and rowed them across the river. And you can even see here in the third boat, that's the wheel of a cannon. The camera didn't do such a great job picking it up. It was a cheap Digicam. But they put cannons in these little rowboats and rowed them across the river. And, I mean, you could take out this front boat, and you could just look at the second boat, and it could be a whole painting in its own. And you could even take out the second one, and look at the third and fourth boats, and they could be their own painting. If you see it in person, again, this is just the pixels from the camera quality. But, I mean, it was really incredible. You could really just take this last little frame here with the third and fourth boats and make it its own whole painting. I mean, that's the level of detail this thing was. And it was massive. I mean, genuinely, like 2 stories tall. I came up to like here-ish on it. It was incredible to see. And the frame. I mean, God, what a frame, right? This gold-like paint, bayonets and spears, and a chest and a cannon and cannonballs, classic eagle and shield with stars, right? The drum for the drum line, and a sword, more spears, right? The stars going around, these shields with their own designs in the corner. I mean, really, really phenomenal. Down here you can see, I think those are spyglasses. So yeah, I understand why this is such a famous painting now. Next up, Weather Vane. And this, I thought it was good attention to detail from the artist. I think this plane looks fairly realistic. You can see here, this is a 6-cylinder radial engine, I believe. I don't see a prop on it. Maybe it was taken off for maintenance or something, but there's no prop. But it is pretty cool to see a 6-cylinder radial engine. Because artists, they're artists. They're not, aerospace engineers. So it's good to see that level of detail. But I took a picture of the weather vane, because weather vanes are really an underrated form of art. Because they're built to withstand the outdoors 24/7, 365. And so the fact that we don't honor the art in weather vanes more is really a shame. Because, I mean, they're probably the most robust pieces of artwork that humanity has ever made. And the only reason paintings have stayed around so long is because they're so dang fragile that we have to keep them in special museums and treat them delicately. But weather vanes, you throw them on top of a building, you come back 100 years later, and it's still up there looking pretty good. So yeah, I thought this was really great that they put a weather vane in there. Next up, oh yeah. So this is the food court on the left, but it's also, this building here is the entrance to the American art history section, which is kind of interesting because America is not usually featured in museums about art, right? We're a very young nation. We're only 250 years old. This year, happy birthday, America. And, a lot of the Monets and the Van Goghs are from before America was even a country, before it was sometimes even found, the New World. Or I should say, not found, but discovered by the Europeans. So there's actually not a lot of American, art out there. So I thought it was kind of neat they had a section for American art. It was kind of fascinating to see. But this entrance here, they did not make this for their museum. They took a building that was going to be demolished, and they just cut the entire front of it off. They cut this entire facade right off the building, transported it into the museum, and there are these, you can see the light coming in. So this light up here is from the skylight, but then the light over here, I think, is these slanted windows going all the way down. So it was completely open during construction before they put in those windows. And so they just took this entire front of a building and just put it in their museum because they wanted something nice to be the entrance to the American history section. And this, I think this is from New York City, which the Met is in New York City, if you don't know. So they just, probably went a couple blocks down and said, it's a nice building. Shame it's getting torn down. You know what? We'll just cut the front off and throw it in our museum. So it was pretty damn incredible to see this thing. Yeah. And I mean, the brickwork, just classic stone facade. Really, looks great. Almost looks like the White House with these pillars here. Yeah, looks really nice. Next up, this painting. Now, this is a good painting. On its own, it would not be in this video. See, it's the context that surrounds this painting, which is why I was able to make my top 12 list. Because this painting, you can see from the angle, I did not take from standing in front of it. And you can see the wire here to keep people back, but there are no people. It's because this exhibit was actually closed to the public. It was still under development. The only way I saw this was by going to the back of the abstract art section, and then leaning over a railing, tilting, my head out, and getting the camera around to take this picture. And the reason I wanted to show it to you was because when I saw that section, I think there were 3 other paintings, 2 more on this wall, and then there was a wall coming parallel to the one this picture is on. So there were 4 paintings in this room total. I just thought this was my favorite of the 4. But anyway, I might have been the only person to view that painting that day. I might have been the only one to see it that week. Heck, maybe I was the first guest of the museum to view that painting. And I really liked that idea. So I decided to take a picture to show everyone that, maybe people were paying attention and a bunch of people have already seen this. But at that very moment, it was quite a real possibility I was the first guest at the museum to give an opinion about this painting. Now, by now, I'm sure the exhibit is open and, hundreds or thousands of visitors have seen it. But at that moment, I might have been the first. Let's see. Oh, yeah. These next 2 are some really powerful paintings. They really spoke to me. And they're both sort of the opposite of that crossing the Hudson River with George Washington. These paintings are very small. Right? I got right up to the frame to take the picture. Very, very small. You can see this is the head of a screw. Takes up a significant portion of this area. Okay? These things probably like the size of my head. Like smaller than a piece of printer paper. Very small paintings. And they were in the room with a bunch of great historical paintings. I think this was like 14th and 15th century European paintings. And so there were some amazing paintings in there. Large paintings, beautiful paintings. But these two really spoke to me on an emotional level. So this first one is a painting of some ruins. But I want you to think about this. Because we sit down and we, go and look at pictures of the Colosseum in Rome. Or, Athena's temple in Greece. Or, Athens or Sparta, whatever it is. Or, the Western Wall in Israel. But even, 400 years ago or 300 years ago in the 14th or 15th century, some artist was doing the exact same thing. See, this is a medieval painting of ruins for medieval people. These are like ruins for medieval people that the artist decided to paint, and now here we are viewing our piece of history of someone viewing a piece of history. And I thought it was really incredible. They did a great job. I love this painting. It feels bright, feels warm. This beautiful sky opens the painting up, and I really love how he captured sort of the life of this painting. This old ruin, overgrown now, right, with plants growing on top of it. And I just thought it was really incredible to sit there and look at this piece of art of someone painting their own piece of history. It's like, a history of a history. So someone went and built what used to be some stone structure, and 100 years later, someone saw it and thought it was cool and painted it. Now 100 years later, a couple hundred years later after that, here I am taking a picture of their painting of the ruin that they saw a couple hundred years before. Like, it just kind of blew my mind, and it really spoke to me. And you can get the sense of scale looking at, zoomed in on the painting. Like, the paint, how the brush strokes, and how the paint clumped up. This is a very small piece. And the artist just did such an incredible job. I would say this is my favorite piece of the entire collection. Now there's this painting. Also very small, right? You can see the paint clumped up, you can see the brush strokes. Very small painting. But it's one of the sky, maybe late afternoon, almost early evening. Sun's kind of setting, we're starting to get those red streaks in the sky. You can see the sun is coming down over here on the right-hand side, lighting up the clouds, and on the left-hand side of the clouds are the shadows. So this must be the west on the right, and then east on the left. And so we're viewing it, I think, from the facing south. Yeah. And so the reason I really connected with this painting is because I do love a good sky. I do love some clouds. But I was looking at it and realizing that of every piece of art that this museum had, I think this is the most universal piece of art that exists. Because of all the ones I saw, there was always something tying it to a place, to a culture, to a time. Where you could always look back and say, oh, this is this area, or oh, it was, the 17th century, or whatever it was. But the sky is universal. No matter where you are, no matter what culture you belong to, or what religion you follow, no matter if it was today or 2,000 years ago, the sky is the sky, all of humanity has looked up and saw the same bright blue scattered with white clouds, and everyone, all of humanity, can relate to this painting. So I think this is the most universal painting that the Met had to offer. And it's this tiny little painting off to the side, thrown in with a giant collection. And so I wanted to take a picture to show everybody. Next up, we have a pillar from the Greeks. And so you can see off over here, you can see there the more classic like Greek vases where they paint their mythology onto it. But they had this amazing pillar. It's from some temple they made. And you can see I'm up. There's a balcony section. I'm taking the picture downwards. And, I mean, this thing is massive. It must weigh tons and tons, thousands of pounds. And this ancient civilization went and carved this intricate structure into it. And then we're able to transport it and build a whole temple out of these things. I mean, look at it. Not only is it tall, but it is incredibly thick. Alright, we have a person here for scale. And, I mean, my God, look at this thing. So I wanted to take a picture of it, because it's really inspiring that, even hundreds or thousands of years ago, we were able, through, inventions like agriculture and laws and society and that kind of thing, we were able to improve the standard of living so much for humanity, or at least for some, that they were able to produce from a massive rock, someone made a living carving it into this pillar. I thought that was just pretty incredible, the immense scale of this massive pillar. Alright, I think this is the last one. You can see here, yep, and that's back to the start. So this is the last piece, and this one really made me think. So before I get into it, first let's look at the frame, because it had this incredible frame here. And look at that intricate design going all the way around. It's really something. But the reason I took a picture of this is because of the two people in it. See, as far as paintings go, it's a nice painting. The painter did a very good job. But I wouldn't say it's great, blow your socks off, beautiful. No, I think this painting really makes you question, makes you wonder. Because the man in the painting is Aristotle. And he is looking down at the bust of Alexander the Great, his pupil. And when I saw this, all I could think to myself is, I wonder what Aristotle is thinking. Do you think that he's proud of his student Alexander? Do you think he resents him for his success, for being, the student, beats the teacher, becomes the master? Do you think that he has disdain for Alexander, for all the conquering and war that he's waged? Do you think that he's happy Alexander has excelled as much as he had? I don't know. I've never read any of Aristotle's writings. Maybe we know how he felt for a fact, but seeing this painting, looking at him, pondering this statue, this bust of Alexander, it's just really made me think. Seeing the teacher considering, his student, or the likeness of his student. And do you think when it was painted, I can't remember if it was actually painted during this time or not. Might not have been. But do you think that Alexander wanted to be there that day? Right? Because he's looking at a bust of his student. He's not actual Alexander, who, must have studied with him a long time. And do you think Aristotle is upset that Alexander couldn't make it to the painting? Do you think Alexander, thinks about that day when he goes to sleep? Do you think he regrets it? Do you think Aristotle regrets teaching Alexander? Do you think he regrets helping him become the man he became. Do you think Alexander misses Aristotle? Right? Maybe they had such a strong relationship that he's almost sad that he has to go out and conquer wars and go to these faraway lands. Because he just wants to go back to when times were simpler and he was in the classroom with his teacher Aristotle. I don't know, but this painting made me think about those things. They made me ask those questions, so I really did like it. Anyway, that's all I have for today. So hopefully you guys enjoyed looking at these paintings. The full collection is available for download on my website. I'm going to make a blog post about this and just put up all the photos I took. I'll put up these 12 separately, so you can just download these if you want them. And then I'll put up all the other ones. There were a bunch I had to cut out that were actually quite interesting, you should check out. But yeah, so that's all I have for today. I hope you guys enjoyed.